Well, joining us now is Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, Bob Rae. Ambassador, thank you for making the time.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be with you.
Listen, we just played back for people at home what we heard from Heather McPherson today, calling for the recognition of a Palestinian state. We also heard from the Foreign Affairs Minister saying when the time is right. But here you have Canada, and as a country, it says it advocates a two-state solution. So wouldn't acknowledging a Palestinian state now emphasize the belief in that goal and perhaps put moral pressure on all parties involved to essentially end the fighting in Gaza?
Well, first of all, I fully agree that we need to find the path to the two-state solution. It's not a new path for Canada. We've been on that path since 1947, and it's important to stress that this has been a position that has been adopted by Canadian governments for decades, and that it was initially completely resisted and rejected by many Arab countries and by the Palestinians. Eventually, we got to Oslo, which took us to the point of saying, let's work towards mutual recognition and get to a better place. Canada's had diplomatic relationship with the Palestinian Authority since that time. We've had full representation in Ramallah. We have a team of people who work in conjunction with the Palestinian Authority. But we do have some challenges ahead that we have to look at and deal with in getting to a state of formal diplomatic recognition of a state when there are requirements for that state in order to be a state. We do believe firmly that we need to have the ability to indicate publicly in every way we can that the creation of a Palestinian state, we believe, is not only in the interests of the Palestinian people, it's also in the interests of the people of Israel and of the state of Israel. But we have some things happening, such as the Hamas-Fatah agreement, which was brokered by China. We don't know what that means. We don't know what effect that has on the governance of the Palestinian Authority. We don't know what it means in terms of where that state intends to go. So I think it's important for us to, many other countries take a similar position. Many other countries have still not taken the step of recognizing. Many of those are countries that we fundamentally agree with. We're not into gesture politics. We're really into doing what is the right thing and how do we make the progress that we need to make. I think our Middle Eastern policy has shown flexibility as we've responded to the situation. We've been clearly calling for the ceasefire, clearly calling for the liberation, the freedom of the hostages. Very much regret some of the positions that have been taken that are preventing that from happening. And that's the route that we're going to continue to take.
Mm-hmm. Well, you talk about actions that might be preventing that from happening. We are also now seeing hostilities between Hezbollah in Lebanon and with the Israeli government. Are you concerned of a full, wider scale conflict here?
I think anybody who thinks about it would be concerned about an escalation. One day, one thing happens. The next day, something else. The next day, the other side goes back. You have to make sure that people don't actually think that a purely military solution is going to be at the core of what will resolve the conflict there. Hezbollah, like Hamas, has not recognized the right of Israel to be a state. Iran has not recognized the right of Israel to be a state. Hamas carried out a brutal, bloody attack on innocent civilians in Israel on October 7th. We're coming up to the first year anniversary of that terrible, horrific event. And we need to understand the depth of rejection that exists. And we also need to understand that rejectionism has to stop and that we have to find practical solutions that involve the recognition of two states. And that is something that we're continuing to work on and work with many other countries as we strive to get to this approach. Canada is deeply involved in all of the discussions that are taking place at the UN and elsewhere as to how do we get out of this terrible conflict And we will continue to be deeply involved in that.
Well, as you say that, I wonder just how much confidence do you have that the Netanyahu government is listening to concerns of countries like Canada right now?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is the Israeli cabinet and the Israeli government have stated publicly that they're not interested in a two-state solution, and I think that's wrong. I think it's counterproductive for Israel to take that position, because I believe very strongly that a Palestinian state is in Israel's own security interests, because I don't believe it's tenable to think that you can have a political solution in the Middle East which does not involve recognizing the rights of Palestinians to self-determination and the rights of Palestinians to live in peace with the state of Israel. Both sides need to have the security to get there. Any sensible person would understand that we're far away from that at the moment. But I've also seen, all of us have seen situations in the world where eventually some kind of common sense prevails. And we are working very hard to make sure that happens. But I wouldn't pretend for a moment that we're at an easy moment at this present time.
Mm-hmm. You know, before you go, I also want to touch on the matter of Haiti, because I was listening to your news conference earlier today, and you were making note of the fact that, you know, if the UN Security Council would actually support a full UN peacekeeping mission, then Canada supports that. Does that mean then that Canada would commit troops if the United Nations if the Security Council voted in favor of a mission?
Well, I think this is one of the things you have to, what I said in my press conference today was, I said that, and then I immediately said, but in the next 2 weeks, that's not going to happen because Russia and China have indicated their opposition to an official peacekeeping mission of the UN. They're not interested in supporting such a thing. So we have to deal with the world of reality, which is why Canada has taken the view that we have to do everything we can to support Haiti in its leadership of its own security, and we have to do whatever we can to bolster that security. And that's why we've worked hard with Kenya, with Jamaica, with Belize, with Guatemala, with El Salvador, with a number of countries in the region that are coming together. We believe strongly that we needed to build a strong basis of support for security in the neighborhood, and we needed to draw heavily on partners in the neighborhood in working with us to find solutions. And I think that's the approach that we've been taking, and I think it's led to an improvement in Haiti's security situation. Mm-hmm. But it is not. We got ways to go, so we need to keep working in a positive direction.
But it seems, though, that it's the Security Council that stops a full mission from happening. Would Canada be speaking in favor of a full mission, though?
Well, I mean, we think that the mission that's in place needs continuing support, and frankly, we're supplying that support financially, in terms of coordination, in terms of equipment, in terms of support on the ground for what's being done, in terms of training, the Haitian National Police. We've been working very, very hard over the last several years to in this area. That's exactly what we've been doing. And I think, you know, we have taken the position that that's the approach that we need to take to get us to get Haiti into a stronger position, to have an election, to have a future there that they can build with the full support of the UN. But Canada will always be working hard with all the actors in the neighborhood to make sure that we're putting the security situation in a better place than it's been for some considerable time.
Ambassador Rae, always appreciate when you make time for us. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.